Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to the 2017 Florida Regional Championships. My name's Gabby Snyder.
My name is Adam Dorricott. I also go by Doz. Not many people actually call me by my real name.
I'll probably call you Dawes at some point on the stream.
Realistically, it's going to happen at some point today anyway.
Definitely. So yeah, we're here with the 2017 Florida Regional Championships in the sunny city of Orlando, Florida, home of theme parks and Pokemon this weekend. So are you hyped for this regional?
I'm really excited.
I am so hyped for this regional.
We have a small number of players actually. We only have, I think it's 98 that turned up today. But I've looked through the player base. I've been out there having a chat with them, and there's a lot of really, really good players available today. We have two reigning world champions with us in Wolfblick and Carson Comfort. So hopefully they get paired up and we can stream that for you.
I would love to stream that so badly. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'd find that very exciting. So we'll see what we get. But we're actually going to start the game. We're going to go with an out-of-state player versus one of our local boys here. We've got Pablo Marquez versus Chuppa Cross. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really been following Pablo since I'm, out of state. So maybe could you tell us a little bit about him for those people on stream who might not be familiar?
Yeah, I mean, I've played Pablo at local events like Premier Challenges and stuff, and he usually brings some quite exciting teams. Some call them memes.
Only some call them memes.
Only some. I've always had really good matches against him, so I think he'll be good. We obviously saw a lot of Chuppa last year, and it'll be interesting to see if our local kind of metagame actually stacks up and matches up with what they're doing in the Northeast, where Chuppa is from, of course.
Yes, and before I forget, TJ, if you could get Pablo to write his team down so we have it, that would be great. Yeah, I was just, we can actually see the team preview thing up on screen, and I was like, uh-oh. Yeah, we need that info. So.
Yeah, we do need to grab the teams from these players. We'll be getting team sheets later in the day, so we'll get that off them. And it's just a short delay. We kind of didn't have the player meeting this morning.
Yeah.
We rushed through it a little bit, so that's good in a way. But we're right into the games here. We're starting pretty much on time today, so hopefully that'll be good.
Yeah, how many rounds are we expecting to see today?
How many rounds are we seeing? We've got 7 rounds today. We've been told by our producer.
All right, 7 rounds, and for those of you who might not be familiar with how Swiss rounds pair out, I believe that means, assuming there's one undefeated person, 2 players who only lose 2 games, or as it goes more colloquially, I guess, people who go X and 2 will have a chance of making cut. And not all people who go X and 2 will win championship points today. So there's definitely a lot on the line, especially when you consider how many amazing players showed up today.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, particularly when we get into those later rounds, to make sure that you're keeping those winning records. Obviously, in a number of tournaments, you can go X2, and you can still cut because we take everyone with the X2 record. But today, we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to an older school kind of format here, and we're going to be just cutting the top 8 off this weekend. So that'll be fantastic. I'm going to take... TJ, could you mute the XY music, please?
All right, so, while we're still waiting to get started here, tell me a little bit, what kind of teams do you want to see today?
I'm quite excited for pretty much any team we get. I mean, down here in Florida, we get a lot of Vettel play. I don't know why a Vettel is particularly popular down in Florida, but what it's really done for us is it's just changed the way that we approach our local tournaments here. So the local players, I think, will be prepped for a Vettel. But we saw in Arizona last week, we had a lot of the dual primal, a lot of that really Groudon Xerneas core that most people love, essentially. It's been very popular all season. So we're going to get, I think, a really good mixed bag. I'll be excited to see what comes from different regions in particular. So that should be good. I think we're going to get the more interesting teams from players such as Wolfie, such as Carson, who feel very comfortable in their ability. They're sort of just playing this format for fun.
So what about Ashton, too? I mean, Ashton, that's like what he's known for.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Ashton actually in this event last year. He turned up with the Pikachu team, which was great fun to cast, and we all had good fun with that. So I think we're about ready to jump on in, aren't we?
We are. So good luck to Pablo Marquez and Chuppa Cross. They're both going right on stream right off the bat. That's certainly a lot of pressure to start the day off with. So
but we didn't give them a choice.
We didn't really give them a choice.
We just told them they were coming in here, so they're stuck with it now, aren't they?
They are stuck with it now. All right, so we have the teams on screen. Chuppa is running Raichu, Kyogre, Rayquaza, Hitmontop, Gengar, and Bronzong against Pablo's Yveltal, Crobat, Kyogre, Mawile, Landorus T, and Raichu. So just like you said, right off the bat, Florida favorite, that Yveltal.
Yeah, we've seen it a lot. I knew somebody would be bringing it from Florida, which is kind of why I wanted to touch on it a little bit. I do like the Yveltal Kyogre sort of matchup that they've been doing. I think it's been paired really well. As long as you can deal with the Xerneas, if your opponent has one, then you're in a really strong position. Obviously, we see no Xerneas on Chuppa's side of the field. He's got the Rayogre, which obviously won a World Championships here, so not a bad pick at all, but an interesting supporting cast from Chuppa here with Gengar, Bronzong, Raichu, Hitmontop. Nothing else to really bring huge offensive pressure. Obviously, they all have one or two quite offensive moves.
Yeah.
But I feel like the majority of the damage on Chuppa's side of the field relies on that Rayogre pairing. So he's going to have to be very careful, make sure they're set up nicely. This is, of course, the same set that Wolfie used, is it not?
Yeah, I believe it is. So, I think we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago in Arizona, but when a team does really well, a lot of players like to bring that team, but, put their own twist on it. So we'll have to see if Chuppa's done anything really to customize this team and make it his own.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways he can customize it. I'd be interested to see if he has made those changes. Is he going to keep them secret to game 2 or 3 perhaps? Or is he just going to lead them right off the back, catch Pablo on the back foot, and then just keep going from there and really pick up that momentum and push on for a nice tidy win?
All right, we're going to get started. It looks like Pablo is leading Kyogre Landorus into Chuppa's Kyogre and Raichu, so definitely getting a type advantage right off the bat with that Landorus into Raichu, but Raichu's thunder attacks or electric type attacks will definitely not be liked by Pablo's Kyogre.
Yeah, I like that they've bought the Kyogres here. Obviously, they both have one, so there's no real concern in preserving your weather setter. You're just able right off the bat to just put Rain up and be quite comfortable. Chopper does have Rayquaza that can bring in Airlock and then potentially strong winds if it's looking to keep safe in that way, but I don't think that's really a big concern. I think we're going to be fairly comfortable with Rain on the field for the majority of this game. I do like the Landorus lead from Pablo. Doesn't really benefit from the Intimidate ability. Does get to put pressure on the Raichu, of course, but is very threatened by the Kyogre. So I'll be interested to see how long they actually keep the Landorus in this turn, or if they both decide to go for the switch. I feel Chuppa's very safe with this Raichu and, of course, the Kyogre on his side of the field.
Definitely. And one thing to note, when you see primal Pokemon on the field, one thing that's very important to note is their speed. Depending on which one primal reverts first, sometimes you can get an indication of, is this Kyogre going to always be faster? Is this a speed tie? We did see Chuppa's Kyogre primal revert first, followed by Pablo's.
Yeah.
So only time will tell if that's really how the speed distribution is, or if that was a speed tie.
Yeah, that's really good information for them to take, actually, because obviously Kyogre, I feel it goes one of two ways. You either go completely balls to the wall, we go for max speed, max special attack, we throw it right out, or a number of players actually have been looking for those bulkier variants, and I think that might be what Pablo's bringing. I'd be interested to see if he can capitalize on perhaps having a little more bulk on his side of the field.
Yeah, so we're going to see Landorus switch out for Mawile, so, double Intimidate out on the field, not going to do much to stop Kyogre, but could potentially weaken this fake out from Raichu into the Landorus spot. We're going to see Water Spout on Chuppa's side of the field move first. It's going to deal a massive amount of damage to that Mawile, getting the knockout again right off the bat. That could be a huge hit to Pablo's offensive ability, and Origin Pulse from that Kyogre on Pablo's side of the turn, finishing this up. We are going to see Raichu pick up the knockout with a crit. Not sure if that mattered.
Yeah, we can get an indication maybe here of what Raichu's item is, which would be really good and helpful information for Pablo going through. Obviously, it didn't have the Focus Sash. The Focus Sash is likely elsewhere on the team. So he now got something from that turn. They both lost a Pokemon on their side of the field. Chuppa lost a supporting Pokemon in Raichu, which could be a little bit of a problem. But Pablo lost his Mawile, which is likely going to be his Mega. It does bring a lot of offensive pressure, so for him to lose that on turn 1 could be a problem. I'm not sure if that was the thing he really needed to win this matchup, but losing it on turn 1 isn't really ideal. We do see the Landorus come back in on Pablo's side of the field, and the Hitmontop on Chuppa's side of the field, so more Intimidate fun.
Yeah, more Intimidate fun. That poor Kyogre on Chuppa's side of the field, -3 attack. Not that it makes a difference, but...
It could do. What if it was a mixed Kyogre that was using Waterfall? Let's not rule this out.
Yeah, that's very true. We shouldn't rule things out, especially since we're at the point in the metagame where, I think a lot of trainers are getting a little bit tired of, if you will, the overused sets on Pokemon. Maybe Chuppa's trying to start something new here.
Yeah, I like what he's doing with it, but I also like what Chuppa's doing with the Pokemon alongside his Kyogre. We see his Kyogre, it Primal Evolved first, and of course moved first. So with the Water Spout, it's probably something that it really wants to be moving first, and the support in both the Raichu and now the Hitmontop really allow it to play its own game without anything stopping it from doing what it wants to do.
Definitely. Hitmontop reveals that it has Feint, and also the eject button switching out after it was hit by a rock slide from that Landorus. We'll have to wait a moment here to see which Pokemon Chuppa's going to send in next. It appears to be his Rayquaza, interestingly enough. So we will see Airlock activate on the field, which means any water-type attacks will not get the damage bonus from the rain anymore. A second Water Spout from that Kyogre into the Landorus and Pablo's Kyogre. Gets a crit on Pablo's Kyogre, brings it down to slightly under half health. Landorus gets the knockout, and Thunder from Pablo's Kyogre into Chuppa's Kyogre. It's gonna barely miss that knockout. Just missed it.
It just falls short, and I think the momentum is really in Chuppa's favor here. I mean, he didn't use Fake Out. He did show it does have Feint. Obviously, he wanted to make sure he was going to get damage down on Pablo's Kyogre, so he hits it with the Feint. Pablo gets a Rock Slide off, maybe just looking for a flinch. I feel with the Hitmontop and the Kyogre on the field, it was pretty tough, of course, for Landorus to be able to do much of anything. It's not going to be able to really pressure Hitmontop, and it's staring down Ice Beam or Water Spout from Chuppa's side of the field, so I feel the momentum's really on Chuppa's side right now. But we do see both players finally have their restricted pairs on the field together. Obviously, Pablo does have a slight advantage in the fact his Kyogre is much stronger than Chuppa's right now in hit points alone, but we do now get to see how a Vettel fares against both Kyogre and of course this Rayquaza, and it'd be interesting to see if Vettel is the answer he needs to see out a comeback in this game and have it there when the Hitmontop comes back in.
Definitely. So Rayquaza, will Mega Evolve and set up Delta Stream this turn. Interestingly enough, that's going to weaken any Ice-type attacks for Yveltal, so not really sure what he was planning there. Double Protect, Kyogre and Rayquaza both protecting this turn. It looks like Yveltal went for a Snarl into the Kyogre for the knockout, and we will not see it move this turn.
No, we see Pablo play it very safe. Obviously, Chuppa plays a little safe as well with the Rayquaza. Doesn't want to get hit by perhaps a Dark Aura boosted Sucker Punch or give him the pressure, but I feel that Pablo really made a good turn. He got the knockout he needed, and now we're down to the final two Pokemon. Obviously, Intimidate's going to come down, not going to do anything to the Kyogre. Likely not going to affect the Yveltal. We did just see it, of course, use Snarl, so likely it's going to be using special attacks such as Snarl. Could be using Foul Play as well to really capitalize on opponents. It has a wide variety of moves, a lot of them Dark type.
Yeah, there's also Oblivion Wing, which could definitely threaten that Hitmontop that just entered the field.
Yeah, I think if he has Oblivion Wing or not is going to be a concern. Even if he does have it, though, we're not going to see it this turn.
Yeah, we see the Fake Out into the Yveltal, so again, it will not move this turn. Rayquaza going next with a Dragon Ascent. It's going to target that Kyogre for the KO, so no damage done from Pablo's side of the field, and yeah, we'll have to see how this next turn plays out. It could definitely decide the rest of this game.
And I think that's actually the turn before, even though it looked good on the surface for Pablo because he did get the knockout, that's the turn before that's actually paying off for Chuppa. The Protect on the Rayquaza matching the Protect of the Kyogre means that when we get to this turn, he knows Kyogre isn't going to have Protect and he's going to be free to hit it with that Dragon Ascent and pick up the knockout. So I think Chuppa played that game very, very smartly. And we are going to see, of course, him just push on and try and get a good win here.
Yeah, we're going to see a second Dragon Ascent into that Yveltal. It misses the KO by a little bit, so we'll have to see what happens. Yveltal going for that Foul Play into the Rayquaza. Easily picks up that knockout, but it's holding a Focus Sash, so it'll actually hold on with 1 HP. Close combat from Hitmontop, I believe, will seal Game 1 in Chuppa's favor.
Yeah, I think a very tidy, safe game from Chuppa there. He kept his Pokemon moving. He kept a lot of damage output coming from his side of the field with the big Water Spouts from Kyogre. So I don't think that's a bad play at all for him. I think that's gone really well. Even though it doesn't look safe, he's managed to play out some tricky turns very well, and the momentum is definitely in his favor going through into Game 2 of this. And I think there's going to be a lot of work on Pablo's side of the field to really pick up the slack there and find out what Chuppa was up to.
Definitely. So we're going to see these trainers jump immediately into Game 2. Once again, for those of you just joining us, Chuppa is running Rayquaza, Kyogre, Gengar, Bronzong, Raichu, and Hitmontop against Pablo's Yveltal, Crobat, Kyogre, Mawile, Landorus, T, and Raichu. I think one of the misplays that Pablo had last game, was the fact that he brought that Landorus into such an unfavorable matchup. I wonder if we're going to see him bring something else instead.
Yeah, there's a number of tough Pokemon for, obviously, Pablo to bring in here. The Mawile, it's really there to deal with Xerneas, and I don't feel there's much outside the Hitmontop that the Mawile can really pressure. Maybe a sucker punch onto Gengar could help him. Maybe he's just looking for big sucker punches, but we'll see how that one plays out for him. I'm really looking forward to see what Pablo brings instead. I think Crobat might be able to help him a little bit here. And maybe he could bring the Raichu and just play that Raichu mirror match a little bit, which could be definitely interesting.
Yeah, so it looks like these trainers are ready to get started. We'll have to see if anybody decides to switch up their leads. It looks like we're going to see a Crobat Yveltal lead from Pablo, so definitely very different. And then once again, that Kyogre Raichu lead from Chuppa.
Yeah, Chuppa sticks with what works, which I think is the smart play here. Pablo completely twists on his opening hand. He goes for the Crobat and the Yveltal. Unfortunately, not the best time to bring either of them. The threat of perhaps the Raichu there, not usually carrying damaging attacks, but might be able to do a little bit of a number, hit them with some nuzzles maybe, and especially if the Crobat's looking to set up a Tailwind, then it's going to be hard if you set up the Tailwind, but then your partner Pokemon gets nuzzled. It's pretty much a dead turn, so I think Chuppa may be able to play just very safely again, do something very similar to the first game, and still be in a very good position. I think just off these leads, Pablo has a lot to be making up for.
Yeah, I would hope to see Pablo adjust those somehow. I mean, we did see that Water Spout immediately in the first turn. Yveltal is really well known for Sucker Punch. We know that it's some sort of a special variety from the first game. Oh, never mind. We're going to see it actually protect this turn, so it doesn't want to take that fake out. It doesn't want to take a potential Water Spout from that Kyogre this turn. Crobat setting up that Tailwind, so Yveltal will definitely win in terms of being faster, and we actually see Kyogre's, I believe, third or fourth move. We see that Origin Pulse. It's going to connect with that Crobat, and it deals massive damage. Crobat hanging on with just 18 HP.
Yeah, I think that's a very good, smart turn from Chuppa, obviously, with the Yveltal on the field. He does have to be worried about the threat of Sucker Punch, so instead of going for Water Spout, he goes for Origin Pulse, and he still manages to get a lot of damage down. Obviously, he would have got a big Water Spout off, probably would have knocked out the Crobat, but he plays it safe, and he's still in a very strong position. He didn't take any damage that turn, and although Pablo set up Tailwind, I still feel that the offensive pressure is on Chuppa's side of the field here, so Pablo may be able to do a little bit more with that Crobat before it goes down. There's no more priority, so it may be able to catch something with a Super Fang, and then that's going to be its sort of last ride before it gets taken off the field, most likely. But once you catch something with a Super Fang, it does mean a Vettel is sort of in range to knock it out with moves such as Foul Play. We do see Foul Play does a huge amount to Kyogre with its naturally high base attack, so if he could maybe catch that, could be a really good turn for Pablo.
We're going to see Raichu switch out, Hitmontop coming in its place. Once again, we're going to see an Intimidate that may or may not really give him a offensive advantage here. Kyogre going for Protect, not wanting to take any damage from that Yveltal this turn, possibly stalling out Tailwind a little bit. Crobat with the Swagger into the Hitmontop. It's going to be confused. The question is it carrying... Actually, no, we saw Eject Button last game. So yes, Hitmontop's going to be confused, and it's going to take a Foul Play. Misses the knockout, but does trip off the eject button.
Yeah, I think a very good turn from Pablo there. He knows that what's going to happen this turn is Kyogre's going to be a little bit scared and want to play safe. So what he does is he goes into that other slot, and although Chuppa makes a really good switch by bringing in the Hitmontop, the Swagger Foul Play does a significant amount of damage to it. Obviously, if it didn't resist that kind of move, then it would have been very, very strong indeed and probably taken a knockout on the switch. But Pablo gets a little bit of pressure back in his favor, and we've seen this Swagger Foul Play combo can be putting a lot of pressure down on Chuppa's side of the field right now. So he has to be careful, has to be wise with his Protect, so he knows, he's not just taking damage silly. But I think Pablo made a good turn there. I think we're in a very even state of the game right now, though, and the next couple of turns are going to be exceptionally decisive in who takes this game too.
Definitely. We see Rayquaza come out on the field on Chuppa's side. So, a lot of Rayquaza are known for running something like Extreme Speed, which could definitely throw a wrench in the Swagger Foul Play plan. So we'll have to see if that was a decision by Chuppa to try and maybe counter that directly this turn. Yeah,
obviously the threat of Extreme Speed puts a lot of pressure on Crobat, but if you spend time knocking out the Crobat, you're still letting that Vettel move only get hit by potentially the Ice Beam coming out from Kyogre. So the Crobat, a lot of people sometimes when they're playing against the Crobat try and ignore it, but you can't do that with Pablo's team because it does have Swagger, and even if you try and ignore it, it's not there on the field anymore to ignore.
Yeah, so we're actually going to see Crobat switch out for Mawile, so I think this was a very good read by Pablo. Not only does he save Crobat Swagger for a later date, also has the option to reset up Tailwind if needed. It intimidates that Rayquaza, so Extreme Speed not going to deal much damage to Mawile since it resists it naturally and that Intimidate, but, doing a foul play into the Rayquaza afterwards brings it down to low health, definitely puts him in a really favorable position going forward. Ice Beam from that Kyogre finishing up the turn, again putting Yveltal into 2-hit knockout range.
Yeah, it does a huge amount of damage to Yveltal. I think the Mawile switch is fantastic though at the beginning of that turn. He knows the extreme speed's coming down, so he makes a read and he brings in something that resists it. He does then manage to hit the Yveltal is safe, as we were saying. Manages to hit that Rayquaza with a foul play and do probably around 60% of its health to it, so might be in range for a Sucker Punch if it has it. But obviously the Kyogre is still left pretty much unchecked and is going to be doing a lot of damage with Ice Beams, potential Water Spouts because it's still at full health.
Yeah.
I think Pablo may need to up the pace of the game a little bit and get some pressure down on Kyogre as well.
Yeah, I think the key here is what is this Mawile going to do this turn? If Mawile is trained in such a way that it could be faster than Kyogre under Tailwind, a play rough here or something could be huge. Maybe he could try and go for a flinch with Iron Head. We're going to have to see Rayquaza switching out, Hitmontop coming in its place. So I think Chuppa, recognizes the threat of having that Mawile on a field and probably wanted to intimidate it this turn. Plus to save Rayquaza for when Tailwind's gone and when it's naturally fast once again. Mawile going for that Mega Evolution definitely makes it very powerful. I believe it actually has that huge power ability, which ups its damage. Kyogre protecting, so wanting to preserve that Water Spout again for a situation when that Tailwind is gone. Sucker Punch from Mawile into the Kyogre. It fails. A Snarl from that Yveltal into the Hitmontop, into the Kyogre. Not going to deal any damage to Kyogre and lowers Hitmontop's special attack by 1 stage. Most importantly, though, we did just see Tailwind run out.
Yeah, Tailwind was actually Pablo's answer there, essentially. That was what he was using to keep up the offensive pressure. It was going to put Mawile in a really good position to do damage. So without that Tailwind, it could be a little bit tricky. I feel Chuppa's now in a very strong position. He's just got Hitmontop on the field, so he can bring those support moves such as Feint, such as Fake Out. And of course, without the Tailwind, the Kyogre's not in such a bad position. And if he can set up something with perhaps a Fake Out and get a huge Water Spout off, then he's going to swing the momentum very quickly in his way. I think Pablo does obviously have the pressure on the field with the Sucker Punch, which we've seen coming out from Mawile, obviously failing, but we're not going to see anything come out of it this turn.
No, we're not. We're going to see Crobat switch back in, actually. So this could be an attempt by Pablo to trade his Crobat for a, back to max attack Mawile. Or, well, not lowered attack, I should say. Fake Out into that Yveltal. Origin Pulse from the Kyogre. It's going to connect with both Pokemon. It picks up that knockout on Crobat, but it also gets it on Yveltal. So Pablo is now down to his final 2 Pokemon.
Yeah, Pablo's down to his final 2, and Chuppa very wisely waited out the Tailwind. He gets to this turn when Tailwind's expired, then gets to Fake Out. Yveltal's the only thing that can really pressure the Kyogre there, so he manages to get that. And now he's in a very strong position. We did see in Game 1, though, Pablo's Kyogre does have Thunder, so it can put a lot of pressure on Chuppa's Kyogre, but with it at full health, it's going to take at least 2, if not 3 Thunders to just chew through the fat of that big blue whale there.
Yeah, and I think maintaining Mawile on the field at this point is also something Pablo needs to do. And with that Hitmontop having Feint, there's nothing really stopping him from taking an Origin Pulse or possibly even a full health Water Spout at this point. Because unless the Kyogres are actually the same speed, and what we saw was just a couple of, unfortunate speed ties, we know that Chuppa's Kyogre has been consistently faster.
Yeah, we see as well the hit point stat coming from Pablo's Kyogre up at 207, so likely it's been trained in some hit points, been given a lot of love while he was training it. So it's going to be very difficult for him to move first. If it can catch it with a Thunder, it could paralyze the Kyogre, but he's not even going to be able to use Thunder.
No, he's not going to be able to use Thunder because Raichu takes the field with that Lightning Rod ability. Origin Pulse for the knockout on Mawile, leaving Kyogre to, give that final stand for Pablo. We are going to see it use an Origin Pulse. It might be too little, too late. I believe Chuppa still has all 4 of his Pokemon, and that Origin Pulse does not deal nearly enough damage to stop that Raichu.
No, and a very well played game by Chuppa. He's controlled the board. I mean, the Kyogre's been on the field since turn 1.
And it's only just took damage.
Yeah, all it's done is Chuppa's very carefully worked through the partners that he has there. So very good play from him. I think he can be very comfortable going into round 2. Pablo, of course, showed that his team does have some tricks, the foul play and the swagger, so Pablo's not at all out, and hopefully if he can win out, then Chuppa can give him a good resistance and we can see Pablo in top cut.
Yeah, definitely. Resistance is going to be very key today with only 2 of those X and 2 players losing. So I think we're going to try and get one of those Chuppa on for an interview. We will be right back shortly, though, so please stay tuned.